And we are live. Thank you, guys, and any ladies that have tuned in for how to shred fats and how to skyrocket your energy levels, particularly if you're traveling as part of your job. You travel or you enjoy eating out. You have to do that either as part of your job or part of your lifestyle is that you eat out. What you're going to learn over the next 30 minutes or so are a number of hacks, a number of strategies, a number of tactics, particularly focusing on nutrition, allowing you to ditch the diet and actually apply the fundamental nutritional science that works, but in a sustainable way that is appropriate for successful professionals, right? We've had 114 people through our program. We've helped every single one of them develop new routines, new lifestyles, a system that works ongoing. And what I wanted to do today is just bring you some thoughts from that specific protocol. We're going to be talking about conscious consistency, a lifestyle system, which is my answer to the diets, whether it's keto, Atkins, whatever it is. So over the next 25, 30 minutes, we'll give you a lot of information and tell you simply how you can start to implement this, right? How you can start to implement this yourself. And I want this to be practical so that it's not just information, but it actually gives you stuff that you can take away. And whether it's this week, whether it's next week, right? If you've ever been on any of the live events before, it's not just about the theory. I want you to be able to apply that and specifically help you guys out, right? I've worked in corporate. I used to be head of, sort of junior director up in London City. I know what it can be like working 10, 12-hour days. Plus, I know the stress and kind of the trying to juggle so many competing priorities. And that's why we developed this system, particularly the 4 pillars of transformation. What we're going to talk about here is primarily the second pillar, right? Talking about nutrition and energy. So what I've done is condense some thoughts for you. And I wanted to share those. So I'm going to see if we can just get those up on the screen for you guys that are here. And look, so that I know that I'm not talking to myself, let me know if you're watching live, put a hashtag live. And if you're watching on catch up, then just put a hashtag replay. Right, let's have a look. Here we go. Right, we should be able to share that now. You guys should be able to see that. So this is fueling for busy executives who travel, right? Particularly for busy executives who travel. And if you want to shred body fat, if your physique isn't quite where you want it to be, and you want to make sure that when you get to the end of the day, your energy levels are where you want them to be, a lot higher, so that you become more focused, you get more done without having to eat a salad every day, without starving yourself, without having to go on a shred or any diet whatsoever, then what we're going to cover over the next 20 minutes is going to be incredibly useful for you. So 3 things, as I said, I want everything to be practical that you can kind of take away. I'm just going to make sure that we are sharing correctly. I'll make sure that we've got the right information. Let's have a look. Right, I'm just going to check the tech. Let me make sure that we've got the right stuff sharing. Give me 2 seconds. Apologies, guys. Right. So let's just stop sharing for a second. And here we go. Present. And we'll go to specifically. Here we go. Okay, right, magic. So as I said, what you're going to be learning is the difference between eating for fat loss and the eating for aesthetics, right? So the difference between eating for fat loss and physical aesthetics, so how you look, and then eating for health, right? So there is a difference there, and I want to make sure that we go into what that difference is specifically. You're also going to learn how to stay on top of your hunger, weight, and energy levels, even when you're traveling, right? Even if you want to or you have to eat out frequently as part of your job, okay? And there's going to be some top tips and biohacks for maximizing your fat burning capability and energy boosting tips so that you can focus in on your productivity. One of the reasons that people say that they can't focus on their health is that they don't have time. Now, if you have a system that allows you to be more productive and get more done, suddenly time doesn't become such an issue. So this is going to be incredibly useful. Just a little bit about me. Anyone that's seen me live before, obviously you'll know this, but I work as an elite health and performance coach. Most of the clients are generally senior managers, directors, VPs, and business owners. I have small to medium-sized firms that just want to go from good to great, right? Get the competitive edge, get maybe like an unfair advantage. But generally, there's a desire to want to look, feel, and perform better. So, modern day executives, burnt out, stressed, time poor. Few things that tend to be sort of commonalities with executives in today's age. Particularly since post-COVID, the lines, even before that, but particularly now, the lines between work and life are blurring a little bit. And so consistency and motivation can start to yo-yo a little bit. They can sometimes be up and down. There's kind of a lack of time, or a perceived lack of time, whether it's real or perceived. And instead, it's the desire for something fast, something convenient. Sometimes it's like eating too few calories, right? When maybe on a diet or something, that leads to muscle wastage. And I get it. There are so many options out there, right? Keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, the 5-2 Atkins, lean in 15 with Joe Wicks, caveman, vegan, you name it. So many different types of diets. And then there's questions like, how would I drink on a diet? Like, can I drink alcohol on a diet? There's questions like, what happens after the diet, right? What happens after the diet? And diets tend to work until they don't work, right? Work until they don't work. Right, I'm just going to take a quick pause there, guys, and just have a look, make sure that our audio and sound is coming through. Got for some feedback that it might not be. So I just want to make sure that we are doing it correctly. Okay. Brilliant. Okay, good stuff. So maybe it's for people that have tried and failed in the past. And a lot of times I hear people say that I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. I think I know what to do, right? And then weight and energy levels, they might have yo-yoed for years. And this is all exacerbated by being in a rush, having lots of work to do, being successful in your career, but having so many other things that you're juggling, and it's causing these issues. So when I speak to people sometimes, and this is generally what's out there in basic sort of nutritional sciences, to lose weight, it's as simple as calories in versus calories out, right? And there is an element of truth in that, right? Whilst calories are created equal, the macronutrients aren't. So what I tend to find as soon as I start working with clients is the one thing that most people, not everyone, but most people tend to do is they're not eating enough protein, right? Now, protein is important for a few reasons, but namely, it helps avoid muscle breakdown when you're eating in a calorie deficit. So you don't just lose weight and appear like skinny fat, but you actually lose fat, right? And you protect the muscle that you've got. But also, it helps you feeling fuller for longer. Protein is a more complex molecule, so it takes longer to break down during digestion. And therefore, it tends to keep you feeling fuller for longer. So that means less snacking, less reaching for treats, avoiding those incremental calories, which are really going to make the difference at the end of the day, right? And you can see here the thermogenic effect of certain macronutrients. So fats, for example, 300 calories of fats, fairly, most fats are fairly easy to break down. So about 294 calories will be absorbed versus carbs 270 and protein 225, right? Protein 225, because it's a more complex molecule. Now, as well, if you look at the glycemic index of foods, which is how quickly they're broken down and turned into energy, a lot of the carbohydrates, or a lot of the carbohydrates that we think of as carbohydrates, right? We're talking about the starchy ones, sort of bread, bread, potatoes, rices, pastas, those quick energy sort of boosting carbs, they will give you energy very quickly, but then there will be a slump, right? there will be a slump as insulin shuttles the sugar out of your blood, right? And so there'll be a slump after that. Whereas foods that are on lower on the glycemic index, generally protein is one of them, right? Lower on the glycemic index, they provide more sustained energy, right? So it's understanding that actually, yes, calories in versus calories out. That's probably the first simple thing to understand. But then beyond that, making sure that you're understanding and eating the right types of macronutrients, particularly without complicating it too much, particularly making sure that you get enough protein, right? If you're not at 100 grams of protein per day, that's kind of the first hurdle to get to. Then trying to get to a place where it's like 30 grams of protein per meal. And really, if you're looking to reduce fat and avoid muscle wastage, you want to be eating up to about 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Okay. And look, something that a lot of people don't tell you about is, and this is in the fitness industry at least, the difference between health and aesthetics. So when we're told what's healthy for us, it's not necessarily the same as what's actually good for our physique, right? Now, if you want to lose weight, you want to lose fat, generally, you want to be more focused on the aesthetics first and then look at the health part afterwards. What most people try and do is they try and combine both together. They go from eating one way to then going on a diet, which is very different to how they've been eating. And then they struggle when the diet doesn't allow them to do things that they want to do and they go off the rails. So maybe they have success for 3-4 weeks because all diets, right? They work on the same principle, the law of thermodynamics, right? Reducing calories, but they're so different from the way in which they've been eating that they're unsustainable. So if you are wanting to lose weight, the first thing to focus on is calories, protein levels, portion control, and making a few intelligent substitutions. That is it, right? Then, after you've done that and you've mastered it and your mindset is aligned to achieving that goal and it becomes more habitual, it requires less energy, like when you're driving a car, right? When you first start driving a car, it requires a lot of energy. You have to think about everything that you're doing. Now, anyone watching this that drives will be able to drive second nature, right? Because it's become more automatic, more habitual. Once you've mastered that, then you can move on to more health-related factors, thinking about health, energy optimization, longevity. And this is where you focus more on micronutrients, the body's reaction, right? Certain intolerances that a lot of us will have, right? But we don't necessarily pick up on, and what the body needs, and a greater understanding, an individualized understanding of what we call metabolic typing, which is, this is probably beyond the scope of this talk today, right? But just understand that if the first thing that you want to do is lose weight or lose fat, you should be focusing more on the aesthetic side and then look at the health part, right? And we're going to talk through a protocol, conscious consistency, that does both of those. So nuts, are they healthy, right? Well, nuts they have a lot of micronutrients in them, right? They're packed full of micronutrients that are good for the body. But this is from a client who we were talking through snacks, and a couple of weeks in, he said, yeah, I've had some nuts. This is good, right? I said, go and weigh them out, right? 74 grams of mixed nuts, which equals, and I said, look, go and plumb that into MyFitnessPal. Tell me how many calories. And he came back flabbergasted, couldn't believe that there's 451 calories in those mixed nuts, which is the same as 200 milliliters or 4 double shots of whiskey, right? Very different nutritional profile, but in terms of calories, right, the same. So 450 calories, a lot of calories in nuts. So is it good for fat loss? Probably sparingly or avoided, right, in most situations, right? Some situations like travel, it becomes like, okay. But generally speaking, are nuts good for fat loss, for weight loss? Not particularly, right? Not particularly, because they're so high in calories. Are they good for your health? Yes, because they're packed full of micronutrients. Protein bars, right? Protein bars, they should be healthy, right? They should be good for our overall health. Well, if you look at most protein bars, they're very, very processed, and there's very little nutrients in them. You can see the ingredients on one suspect protein bar here. So only 210 calories. Look at the amount of protein in it, fairly, relatively high amount of protein, apparently relatively low amount of sugar, but it contains soy. Right now, soy causes the overproduction of estrogen in men, and that can lead to additional tissue around the breasts, or man boobs. Right, we refer to it as man boobs. Cane sugar, brown rice syrup, they are completely depleted of any micronutrients, so they cause an adverse effect. In fact, sugar is classified by the World Health Organization as a something that not only can cause cancer, but can actually cause the body harm. Right? That's by the World Health Organization. Sunflower oil has links to being carcinogenic, and there are tons and tons of processed ingredients which has removed all but any sort of micronutrients. So is this particular protein bar good? Well, yes, for your aesthetics, because it's high in protein and the calories are not too high. So it's going to help you lose weight. Is it going to give you the energy that you want? Should it be used ongoing as something as part of your lifestyle, or eaten frequently? Probably not, right? Probably not, because of what it's got in it. So a couple of examples here, 2 transformations that I went through when I was getting in shape. One, when I was very focused on just eating for aesthetics, right? Just looking at the macronutrients, the protein on the left in 2016, right? And I felt before I did the shoot, I felt exhausted because I hadn't been paying attention to conscious consistency. I've been focused very much on, getting a lot of protein in, not really caring about the source that it came from, not eating organic protein from animal sources, for example, having a lot of protein shakes, protein bars, and I felt exhausted. Versus a transformation that I did earlier this year, where I did have to reduce my calories, but I did it in a sustainable way. And I did it by eating the right types of food, varying the types of foods that I was eating, making sure that my protein sources came from organic protein, making sure that I was eating micronutrient dense foods, that would actually whole foods that were going to benefit me and give me the energy. So I didn't feel knackered after the workouts that I was doing, right? So 2 very different transformations when it comes to nutrition and fueling, right? Again, on the left, whilst I was very focused on the amount of protein and calorie reduction, I didn't eat out at all, right? I didn't drink any alcohol either, right? Whereas on the right, I did eat out, right? Probably ate out once every 10 days. And I did drink, right? A couple of times a week. But I did so in moderation, understanding how it would affect my energy levels, how it affects my mentality and my sort of mental and emotional health. So this is what I refer to as the infinite loop, right? The infinite loop that a lot of successful professionals can get stuck in. And I wanted to talk through how nutrition and energy is affected here. So when we're all busy and there's those back-to-back meetings that start to take over, our stress levels rise, and we want something that's convenient. We reach for something that's quick and easy, and we don't think about it, we don't plan it. But when we start to feel energy levels slump and we start to feel a little bit unhealthy, then we decide to change. So what do we do when we decide to change? Well, most people, they decide to either exercise more, maybe they get a PT, maybe they get a gym membership, maybe they go on a diet, and they don't actually fit it into their lifestyle. They don't plan it in. Maybe they don't enjoy it, right? Maybe they don't understand why they're doing it even. And so when the meetings take over again and the stress levels at work rise, the exercise stop, the diet goes back to whatever you were eating before because you haven't done any changes at a psychological level. And it happens like that, and it keeps on going until there's some health issues, right? And you start to creak at the seams. And this is the infinite loop. Having worked with 114 guys now, everyone that I've worked with is going through some variation of this, and they're trapped. Now, nutrition is one of the key pillars here, right? It's not the fundamental one, which is probably mindset and psychology, but it is one of the key pillars here. So what's the solution? Every client that I've ever worked with, has gone through some version or variation of this. And on average, clients that work with me lose 14 to 30 pounds over a 90-day period. And when we check in 6 and 12 months afterwards, 8 out of 10 have kept it off and are in a better place, or the same or a better place than when they finished the program. Versus 95% of people who go on a diet go back to, right? 95% of people who go on a diet go back to at least as heavy as they were before they started the diet within 6 months. Okay. So this is a very useful and practical protocol, and it's designed to be applied specifically for people that are time poor, people that have struggled with consistency in the past, people whose motivations are up and down because they have a lot of stress and they're juggling a lot of things. So the first thing to do is to bring awareness, increase the level of consciousness in what you're eating. The second thing is we look at increasing protein levels, making sure that there's protein with every single meal. We then start to understand what it feels like to be hungry, whether it's emotional hunger, which is sudden and it's very specific, might be, I want at McDonald's, it has to be some chicken nuggets or a burger. Or is it physical hunger, which is generally slower to come on and it's broad, right? Anything can cure physical hunger. So getting more in tune with your body, starting to pattern interrupt and being aware, what is it? Is it an emotional hunger because I'm stressed? Or is it a physical hunger? Right? Just starting getting more in tune with your body on that level. Then we put in place something which is just footering the day, right? The end of the day, closing the loop, which is the last meal of the day is 2 hours before your head hits the pillow. Now, this is because if you have your meal very close to going to bed, you're trying to digest that meal whilst your body's trying to go into sleep, rest, and recovery. Two different systems within the body. If you have your meal very close to going to bed, right, it affects how you sleep, it affects your recovery. And the symptoms of that in the morning are brain fog or sluggishness. So if you're having your meal late, and this is like some days it's not possible, right? Some days you get home late and you're just like, I've got to do that. Right? I've got to have a meal late. But try having your meal 2 hours before your head hits the pillow and just see, how do your energy levels change in the morning? Then, right, I'm not a believer of diet plans. I just don't believe in meal plans, diets, because they go against human nature. They go against our lifestyles, right? I believe much more in a lifestyle protocol, this conscious consistency. So with that, yes, we do start to plan, maybe just think one day ahead. What am I going to have for breakfast? What am I going to have for lunch? Where am I going to get dinner? And if I'm having dinner out, if I'm having lunch out, starting to make conscious decisions, which could look like looking up the menu before you go, deciding how many alcoholic drinks and of what types are you going to have, right? Holding yourself to a standard, a moderate amount of discipline, right? And just starting to plan one day in advance rather than the whole week, which can become unwieldy. It's not sustainable for most people. Just starting to plan the next day. Then there is some science, right? We need to, if you want to lose fat specifically, you want to lose weight, yes, you need to understand a few things. We need to understand TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, which is how much energy you need to consume based on your activity levels. You need to understand your active metabolic rate, your basic metabolic rate, and the percentage calorie deficit that you will eat so that it will be sustainable rather than just a flash in the pan. So there is some science here. And then there's some applying it to your lifestyle to make sure that it's sustainable, right? But there has to be a little bit of science. Then we look at substitution of certain things, right? Because you're at this point understanding science, maybe you're starting to look at the types of things that you're eating. Substitution of some food types to healthier, lower calorie alternatives. Now, you can see here that steps 1 to 6, even part of 7, is very much focused on the physique, the aesthetics, right? We're looking to get the weight down first with the minimal amount of shifts in terms of how you're eating. We're just becoming a little bit more conscious, a little bit more intelligent. It's only then in step 7 and 8, once this has become more automatic, become more habitual, that you then start to make gradual changes to the way in which you eat based on uplifting your nutritional knowledge, right? So shifting your eating patterns over time, making healthier options and healthier choices because you know how your body reacts to certain food types. You know what good food actually looks like, rather than fake food in inverted commas, which is highly processed and is not going to be beneficial for you in the long term from a health and longevity perspective, or in the short term from an energetic perspective. So this is the protocol. And you can see here 8 steps. It's fairly simple. Now, yes, there are some more details to each of these steps. Yes, obviously, this is the information. You do need to implement this, and some people need some help doing that. But this is as simple as it gets. If you can follow these 8 steps, and if you can follow these 8 steps by yourself, I guarantee you, you will start to unlock a lifestyle protocol that will benefit you, not just for 12 weeks, but for 12 years plus and ongoing. So if you are traveling, a lot of my guys in America, East Coast to West Coast, even some of the guys that I work with here in the UK, sales directors or business owners, they've got to travel quite a bit as part of their job. And when you're eating on the go, you don't have time for chicken and broccoli in a Tupperware. This is not kind of like Lean In 15. I can go and grab one of Joe Wick's books and cook up some lunch for the next day. Right? You need something to be able to grab quickly, right? So this isn't necessarily for your main meals, but if you're feeling hungry and you need to have something to go to quickly, these are some better, right? I'm not going to say healthy, right? Because some of these things aren't healthy, but these are some better options that you can get at most stores, shops, that everyone in the UK and US will have access to, right? So we've got nuts, we've got fruits, we've got jerky and biltong, right? Some protein bars, yogurts and shakes. Looking at the back, you will need to look at the ingredients for this, right? The more ingredients that it has, probably the worse it is, right? Water, obviously, Greek yogurts, carrots and hummus, dark chocolate, light cheese, pork skins, right, and puffs, as opposed to pork scratchings, right? Pork scratchings is very high in calories, whereas pork skins and puffs have a lot of the calories taken out. Are they healthy? No, because they don't necessarily have a lot of micronutrients in. Are they a better option than having cakes, chocolate bars, sweets, things that are higher calorific? Absolutely, right? Rice crackers, popcorn. And, if I'm going to, a convenience store, even a lot of petrol service stations, right, I might grab like a thing of king prawns, right? Low in calories, high in protein, going to have a fair amount of micronutrients in there, or even some smoked salmon. So these are just some better options for you if you are on the go and you want to have something to grab quickly. And look, most of my clients, right, they will eat out at restaurants. They're not going to stop having fun. They're not going to, and like maybe it's like part of their job. If they're in sales, they need to go out with clients. But at the same time, that shouldn't, and it doesn't have to, mean that you can't focus on your physique and your health goals, right? There's just a few things that you need to balance out. So when we talk about alcohol, no need for abstinence unless you want to. But yes, you do want to opt for some lower calorie options. So if you were going to have 3 pints, well, maybe it's just 1 pint and a couple of gin and tonics, right? Maybe it's just 1 pint and a couple of gin and tonics. Pudding menu is where a lot of people go wrong. They go out, they feel like, I'm going out, I can get involved, I can have some pudding. This is where a lot of people go wrong. So the easiest thing to do is, unless it's a really conscious decision where you go to the restaurant and you're like, I'm having pudding today, is just avoid the pudding menu. 8 times out of 10, I'm just not going to look at it, right? 2 times out of 10, I'm like, fuck it, I want a pudding. And I make a decision, I'm going to have a pudding, right? But avoid the dessert menu. Just realized pudding I don't know if there's anyone watching from the States, might not be an American word. Avoid the dessert menu. Maybe it's, as I said, start to plan out where are you going to eat. Ask the restaurants if they have any nutritional info, right? So you can be aware of what calories are in the food that you're having. Now, we have law here in the UK that any franchise restaurants have to have this publicized. Now, higher end restaurants or private independent restaurants don't. So you can ask, right? But maybe it's like, this is a little bit too hectic, right? But at the very least, you can have a look at the menu beforehand and make an intelligent decision, a conscious decision. What are you going to have? Load up on your veg and salad, and you just avoid the starchy carbs like potatoes, rice, and pasta, right? You're going to save yourself hundreds of calories by doing this. Make sure that the protein level is up. And sauces, avoid excessive condiment sauce, right? If something's cooked in a sauce, either ask for it not like the sauce to come on the side, right? Or the sauce to not be included. And if you're having meat when you're out, opt for leaner cuts, generally steak and chicken, okay? And just be conscious of your portion sizes. Sometimes, if we're eating at home, the food that we're eating at home might fit as a meal into two cupped hands, right? Or at least that's a good size, right? Maybe some of you guys have a little bit more. Maybe sometimes I have a little bit more, right? But be conscious of your portion sizes, particularly when you go out. Sometimes the food can come on a huge, ginormous plate, right? And we get in this habit of just eating what's in front of us. So be conscious of your portion sizes. So this allows you to control the controllables. Now, are you going to be able to track, in MyFitnessPal or other calorie trackers, everything that you have in restaurants? No, right? And you shouldn't have to, right? Control the controllables, track when you can, when you need to have the additional degree of knowledge, right, and insight, and then make conscious decisions when you're eating out at restaurants. I call it the conscious consistency dual track approach. And when you are traveling, right, particularly if you're traveling internationally, here's a couple of ways to optimize, right, start to skyrocket your energy levels. And the first one is plan your nutrition, right? So the day that you're traveling, plan, what am I having for breakfast? What snacks am I going to take, or would I have access to? Make sure that you're on top of your hunger, because here's the kicker, right? Generally, when you travel, hunger is the thing that makes you make short, sharp, rash decisions. So if you can stay on top of your hunger, actually the decisions that you make with relation to your nutrition are much more consistent and in line with your goals. Avoid and limit plain food, right? Eat before or after. Now, if you're on a long haul flight, this might not be possible, but if you're on a shorter haul flight, most of the stuff that you tend to get on planes is absolute crap, right? Is absolute crap. So maybe it's like, well, it's free and I've paid for it and I want to get my money's worth. That's up to you, right? But would I be, even if I've paid for it, would I be eating like that crap all the time? Probably not, right? So avoid or limit it. Super greens, right? Super greens is a great way to get some of the micronutrients that are needed for energy whilst you fly and you don't necessarily have access to anything green for a day or longer, right? So super greens, you can get it in short containers or small containers, just mix it in with water, right? Oil of oregano is a natural pathogen killer. A lot of the time when people travel, they pick up germs. They're in small confined places with other people. We've got COVID to contend with as well now. Oil of oregano is a natural killer of pathogens. So if I'm traveling, if I'm getting on a flight, I'm always going to have a few drops of oil of oregano. Tea and chi. This is a great way to boost real energy levels. None of this kind of fake crap. It's just got loads of caffeine in with energy drinks, right? Tea and chi has a very good blend of micronutrients that the body's systems needs in order to work properly. And it is a boost of your real energy. Now, also some couple of ones here that aren't nutrition related, but are more kind of biohacking is when you get to your new destination, particularly if the time zone's changed, make sure that you are getting access to sunlight. And in some cases, you're grounding, which just means getting your feet onto the bare earth, right? Which is generally better done on grass rather than tarmac. It doesn't have the same effect on tarmac, but get access to sunlight. Don't just go straight to an office or a hotel with artificial light. You will feel more energized if the sunlight can actually control your circadian rhythm, can reset it. And similarly, if you are flying, right, or you're going from one time zone to another, take a sleep mask or some blue light blockers. Again, that's going to help with your circadian rhythm. It's going to block that artificial blue light, which is telling your body it's the middle of the day, even though it might be where you were coming from, the middle of the night. And that will stop any hormone irregularities from happening, or at least reduce the hormone irregularities from happening, which is usually, cortisol being kept too high and melatonin and serotonin not being allowed to be produced in appropriate quantities. So just a couple of biohacking things that you can do to optimize your energy levels if you are a frequent flyer or frequent traveler. So coming towards the end now, and hopefully you've understood that the right nutritional information and protocol is essential for fat loss and for energy optimization. For anyone that wants to become more focused, more productive, and wants to lose body fat rather than just lose weight, it's important to have a system that works ongoing, that works for you in your corporate environment. But here's the kicker, right? If it was as simple as all you need is the information, we'd all be millionaires walking around with six-pack abs. Now, a lot of my clients here are probably, I don't know, there's probably a few millionaires here. I think everyone's doing pretty well for themselves. Some of them got six packs. Some of them are just significantly healthier and in better shape now than when perhaps they started or before they started working with us. So it's not just about the information. I think you know this, right? It's about how you implement that information. So what you've got today, and anyone that's attended or registered to attend this event, I'm going to make sure that these slides and the recording goes out to you so that you've got access to that. I want to make sure that we're adding value, giving you the right information so that you can, if you want to, you can go and do this by yourself. But for anyone that actually wants to, take the opportunity to implement this information with additional information from the other three pillars of transformation and tread the path that 114 guys have done and lost 14 to 30 pounds in the process so that you can start firing on all cylinders again. That journey starts with a very simple, honest, and open conversation, right? It's not a sales call. I know some people, worry like, oh, is he going to try and sell me something? This is really just to see what are some of the issues, the specific issues that you might have with your lifestyle at the moment, and how is your physique, energy levels, your performance being affected, helping you get clarity on what I call your game plan. Like, what does that look like? What goals and outcomes do you want over the next 3 and 6 months? So really, this is just to help you get clarity on what that looks like. So if you would want the opportunity to implement some of the information like Brendan did here, right? Brendan actually reached out after one of these talks, attending one of these talks, just like you guys that are watching, right? Lost 28 pounds in 12 weeks. And he was a national sales manager, so he's traveling a lot as part of his job, right? Traveling a lot as part of his job. And he still ate what he wanted. He just had more focus, more awareness, more knowledge around what's in the food that he's eating. And he had most importantly, he had the accountability, right? So he had the accountability to make sure that that information was implemented. And during this process, that accountability went from him externalizing it to me as a coach. And he learned and applied the conscious consistency lifestyle framework and protocol rather than trying to have a diet. And then that accountability is shifted back to him, right? So we coach self-accountability on the program. So anyone that wants help implementing this as a system so that you can skyrocket your own energy levels, get more done, right? Whether it's like getting more work done, whether it's kind of freeing up more time to spend with loved ones, families, whatever it is that you value, right? Spending and using your time for, that will be one of the outcomes that you will benefit from this type of program. Some people decide to actually use it to focus that energy and that their performance and rise into the next level, focusing on like an additional career move, right? So actually starting to earn more money as a result of focusing on their holistic performance. So if that's you and you just want to have a few or ask a few questions in relation to, well, what is Reignite Pro? What does it look like? Like, is it the right option for me? Who do you work with? How do you work? All of those sorts of questions that people have before they might embark upon the type of transformation. And here's the kicker, right? I was reading an article earlier today that when you sign up to a gym versus you sign up for a challenge, a transformation, or even like a race in some cases, you're up to 12 times more likely for it to stick, right? Versus a challenge, a transformation, versus actually just getting a gym membership. 12 times more likely for the things that you want to focus on in your fitness and health and broader performance to stick, right? Huge differential there. So if you do want help there's going to be a link in the comments after this talk. Please just click that, book a call with me, and we'll have a 15-minute conversation and see if we can help you. Okay. We're just about wrapping it up for today. That is everything that we wanted to cover. So thank you. Let me just stop sharing. Put back. Thank you very much for everyone that has jumped on and watched live, and anyone that has watched this on replay as well. If you do have any questions, please pop them in the comments or send me a direct message. More than happy to help and give you some thoughts. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed today's masterclass focusing on nutrition and energy, the second pillar of transformation. And I will be back, I'm sure, next week with something else exciting for you. Until then, stay safe, and I will see you next week.